tutorial today, mostly UI design patterns for TV, but there's also a lot of technical details. So don't worry if you don't get it all. The slides will be made available soon. Normally this talk is designed for going after the Android sessions, but you should get it all. I encourage you to attend those sessions afterwards or watch the Google I/O sessions on YouTube. So what is Google TV? It's a platform that opens the living room to the web and brings more entertainment choices to people every day. It's a shared device used by the whole family. It includes Android Market on TV, ADD, Chrome, Flash, and is based on Honeycomb 3.1. We even include in-app purchasing. By developing for Google TV, you get easy access to the living room where most homes have their best displays, sound systems, and families spend 3 to 5 hours a day. With Google TV, we are giving you, the developer, a box of really cool Legos. We are looking forward to what you decide to do with them. Google Search is unrivaled in quality, and for Google TV, we use Search to make the viewing experience easier. Searching through 1,000 channels by hand is hard. We make it easy. Anytime the user presses the search button on the remote, they are doing a global search throughout the whole system, including TV programs and apps. Your app can be a part of this if you provide an Android search provider. With Spotlight, we make it easy to find Google TV optimized websites. If you're interested in participating, please go to this URL. Google TV has announced many partners already, and more announcements are forthcoming. You're going to see a lot of Google TVs in the coming year. While Google TV isn't available for Argentina, we are encouraging you to develop for the US market. It's huge. Our partners are experimenting with various designs of innovative remotes. One common theme is the D-pad, highlighted in blue. We encourage you to design your apps as D-pad navigable. Most of us are already familiar with these keys on our desktops. It's just up, down, left, right, and OK. Very simple, yet very powerful. There are also pointing devices, like the ones I've highlighted in green. Virtual input devices, such as the Google TV Remote app, that runs on tablets and phones and communicates via the AnyMode protocol, introduces interesting gameplay into the mix of Google TV apps. We've seen racing games and poker games on Google TV that use this, providing a very interactive and highly social experience. We're hoping that you will define what smart TV is. We've got our ideas and we'll share many of them, but ultimately the killer app is going to come from one of you. How do you think it should be used? What we are expecting to see is a multi-screen experience that ties our various devices together. This is great for developers because the potential for innovation is magnified by the possibility of developing applications that take advantage of these multiple screens. As I mentioned earlier, we're already seeing innovation with multiple screens in Google TV. So a couple design tips that are applicable for designing anything in any software. You want to start by identifying vital parts of your interface before you start. Group content, controls, and interactions by priority. Throw out the non-essential. Stick with one visible mode of navigation or one information hierarchy. Your users need a simple mental model that works for all your activities, and take advantage of existing metaphors from the web and Android. TVs are social devices used by the whole family. Thinking about privacy, your parents aren't necessarily going to want to share everything with their children. Consider supporting multiple accounts for your authenticator, and consider supporting a logout function. For the 10-foot lean-back experience, some things that we've learned from desktops and phones need to be unlearned and replaced by other ideas. Fonts, graphics, and widgets need to be a bit bigger. Avoid a cluttered experience, empty space. Put navigational controls on the left or the right. The display is large and wide. Technically, you can design for 1080 and let the system scale down to 720, at least as you're starting your app design. And use 9-patch images for better scaling. Use white sparingly. Avoid bright reds and oranges. Short lists that are all on screen are easier to work with. Make clear the difference between selected and where focus is. There may be several things on screen that are selected, but only one thing should be in focus at a time. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that. And animation will help your users understand what's going on. Obviously, a TV doesn't allow for direct touch. You can, of course, use pointing devices on the remotes, but most apps will use D-pads. It's easier to leverage that. Start thinking landscape instead of vertical. And just a reminder that flash and video does not work in a web view. Overscan comes from analog TV production, and surprisingly to me is still with us. Unlike a phone, where you can expect the same number of pixels, both horizontal and vertical, in each device of a given model, every single Google TV is potentially different. This difference can be as much as 15%, though it is typically no more than 6. This means you need to design and test for it. By the way, the reference point will be 0, 0 in your apps. Fortunately, Android already provides mechanisms for doing this. Relative layouts, gravity, and weights can help. Designing your backgrounds to be centered and then clipped is also a useful thing. You'll probably find that keeping your full-screen bitmaps in no DPI and scaling or clipping yourself yields far better results. You'll find that scaling a full-screen image uses a lot of memory, however. So a universal application runs on all devices and optimizes itself for each. A limited functionality app will only do a subset of activities on TV, such as an app that includes SMS or something else that's phone specific. You won't have that on TV, but you can test and just turn off that feature. Or a Google TV app, which is optimized for a TV experience. It's up to you to decide what you'd like to build. So there is no NDK. You cannot have native code. Also, the JIT is currently off. We know both of these are important. If you use RenderScript, it will really help speed up the performance of your drawing. Currently, none of the OEMs have created devices with sensors. If you want them, you'll need to roll your own with virtual remotes. It's a much larger screen, more memory to move around. And also, don't just test for Wi-Fi and assume that if it's not that, it's a slower connection. On a TV, it might be a faster one. Google TV is a large display, and when viewed from at least 10 feet, it appears to be smaller than a tablet. Also test for 6% smaller as well, as I mentioned. Note that 720p is 213 dpi, or TV DPI, a new specifier. If you do the math, you'll notice that display-independent pixels work out to 960 by 540 for both screen sizes. If you need TV-specific resources, the qualifiers should be large, TV no DPI, no touch, or large XHDPI, no touch. You can also use the no DPI qualifier to prevent the system from automatically scaling for you. When you test with standard, vivid, cinema, theater, and games. All of these modes have different effects on the visual quality of the image. and testing for it will tell you what your user is going to see. Also test with lower quality displays if you can. They have poor gamma and color settings, so the range won't be the same. If you want location, you can get it on a Google TV to the area of about a postal code. This is how you do it. So some design patterns. The current state of an application includes context, the rectangles in this display, a selection, A, and the focus, B. The context is usually a set of categories, while the selection is the category the user has selected. The focus is control, or the element under the pointer. Each of these should have its own distinctive highlight, as you can see here. Sort of the edges are fuzzy here, and it's very distinct. And the highlighting scheme should remain consistent across the application. For Google TV applications, D-pad focus is equivalent to mouse hover state. It is the primary way that users see the application state, and it helps the users predict how they should move the focus and make a selection. Some widgets in Android aren't focusable by default, or don't have the correct attributes to work in a touch environment. It's up to you, the developer, to correct this when necessary by adding the focusable attribute, a color state, or a stateless drawable. So focusable and what the stateless look like. Sometimes the default navigation behavior isn't what you'd consider correct. Using next focus will help. So next focus, down, left, right, up, and forward, which is the tab key. You can use request focus to set the default when activity is first shown. It provides the starting point for your users. Like hopping stones across a stream, a user must think about moving along UI elements that accept focus and avoid those that can't. One way to help users in this task is to give a distinctive visual treatment, such as outline boxes to focusable elements, as you can see here. Distinguishing between focusable elements and those that can't get focus is one way you can help your user understand your UI. Another way is to help users is to align your elements to a grid. A grid is the most obvious mapping to D-pad's up, down, left, right controls. If you don't use a grid, then your elements could align diagonally or on different baselines or on different vertical centers. This either forces the user to switch repeatedly from up, down to left, right, or leaves the user confused about the proper move to make. Some elements, such as scrolling lists, may define exact grid alignment. In this case, you should try to make the default focus as close to a grid as possible. You can see here something that doesn't make it easy. You actually have to move here and down with the D-pad. A 10-foot UI is a fun environment. It's not work. It's mostly social experience. Navigation should work from left to right, top to bottom, with good feedback. A viewing experience, it's going to be a mix of computer and TV. TVs have high quality sound and simple visual navigation tools. The 10-foot UI works best with well-established UI patterns based on content zones. Many different UIs can be based on a zone design pattern. A global zone that is persistent and mostly invariant for your applications can be fairly small, while the detail zone is the largest one because it's what's most important to the user. A contextual zone is in between and it's where the user may select the detail and options to find the detailed information. Make use of the total landscape. This is a good zone design. You have on the left, you can move to the center, and then on the right, some optional things. But you basically are moving left to right. You can scroll here, but again, you can still move left or right, and it's easy to use. On the other hand, this one, you'd start here, you'd have to scroll through every element in the list before you get down here. And if you want to go back up, you've got to scroll through every element in the list. It's really undesirable for a D-pad environment. You can see how this is still a very rich and flexible design, even within the limits. And if you implement using fragments, a Honeycomb 3.1 feature, you can also transfer large parts of your design to a phone or a tablet or front end. Like this. You can see zones are independent of device. Here are some examples of various forms of zone patterns. This is the content shelf. It's useful for a lot of categorized content. You're scrolling both vertically and horizontally, so be mindful when you use this. Again, you'll want to be mindful of using something like this, but it's great if you have a lot of content and scroll through. Grids are a lot easier to look at than the next pattern, the content list. But again, there are times when this is a good option. Cascading content list. So you have a nice set of hierarchies. Extended details. So you have what's important, and then you may switch between elements. Subsection tabs. And the sort and filter pattern. There's a couple of these. When you go up to it, it expands. Multiple sort and filters expanded. So text. Avoid lightweight fonts. Limit your paragraphs to 90 words. That's huge. Break text into small chunks that can be easily scanned. And use 5 to 7 words a line. And light text on a dark background is a lot easier to read on a TV. And use vertical line spacing, more leading than for print. Use sounds that are appropriate for the living room environment. Default to a low volume. And be aware of sound focus. Users may wish something else to be playing. And when your activity isn't in the foreground, be prepared to give up audio focus. So, pointer navigation. We're recommending you rarely do this. We'd rather use D-pad, but sometimes it's unavoidable. So when you need to do this, make over-large selection surfaces for the mouse, i.e. large clickable buttons. Provide obvious UI feedback, a color state list, or a stateless drawable, and override hover state on generic motion event. It'll make it easier to show the user what's going on. So some more design tips. Make the primary action reachable in one click. Other on-screen actions should be few and prominent. Don't hide key features. Always display an easy way for users to return to the previous location and clean up your backstack. Some folks, if the user goes down 25 items, require you going back through all those 25. That's not a good experience for the user. And pre-select the user's next action when you can. Search should be on screen. Remember, the search key on the keyboard is a global search, not an application search. So if you want an application-only search, it should be a button on screen. Avoid abstract icons. Short, clear labels with text. and test them with users. This is really important. Limit vertical scrolling. Imagine how your content would be if you had 10 times as much of it. And if you must scroll, make sure the display doesn't look complete. It should have a visual indicator like arrows. Or if you're showing something like 6 elements visually, make it only 5 3/4 so it looks incomplete and it's clear to the user they should be scrolling. A TV is a long way away. So migrating your existing apps. Pandora took its phone app here and just simply made it their TV app. They added media key support. TVs are obviously great for video, and CNBC has optimized their app for that. You can see their web app, their phone app, and their TV app. They've done a good job repurposing their content for each medium. So when you're migrating, it's easiest if you fix your manifest so features are not required, add Google TV elements to the manifest, check for features using code, try setting your orientation to unspecified, migrate the layout, and scale some assets yourself, and add in media key support. And remember that permission requests often bring in features. Use the Android Asset Packaging tool, AAPT, before uploading to market. So the channel listing content provider will let you discover what channels are available on your TV, and will give you a TV URI that you can use to send as an intent to change channels with. This is just the start of our TV-focused APIs. The emulator for Linux is available now. An update will be out shortly, and you can get the most of the way by developing on a tablet in landscape with a keyboard. And we'll be pushing the V2 update in the weeks ahead to all existing boxes. And finally, getting ready for market. All you need to do is say Android hardware touchscreen is false. That will make it appear in the Google TV market, assuming you're not requesting any features that aren't available on the TV. If you want to check for a feature, if you're running on Google TV, Get Package Manager has system feature, COM Google TV, Android TV, and you can also, of course, check for those features that you don't want to have on, if it's on a TV. And if you want your app to be Google TV only, say so. COM, Google, Android TV, required is true. These are the only features you can require. Please ask for them only if you need them. TV, location management, location by network, to be a USB host, Wi-Fi, and live wallpaper. If you'd like to make your app multiple APKs, you can do that. Again, for the Google TV one, and change your package name for TV, and then for your phone and tablet app, say Android required is true. And that will let you have 2 separate ones. Lastly, please check your UI performance before we upload to market, ideally long before. Does your application start immediately? Are the animations smooth or choppy? Is the video smooth or choppy? Do the audio clips play continuously or pause and resume? Does the window flicker or turn blank when a long operation is running? And when typing, does text input keep up or lag behind? And when you click, is the response immediate? So please be sure to check out the Google TV Lounge. It's that way, instead of where it says at the end, instead of where it says on your badge. And remember, we are giving you the Legos. We're looking for you to build something cool. So for more information, code.google.com/TV. Follow us on Twitter, Google TV Dev. We answer questions on Stack Overflow and also on Google TV Android.